Hello and welcome to another episode of the CG Garage. This is episode number 417. And I decided that, we haven't had Martini Giant guys on the podcast for a long time because obviously Martini Giant has spun off into its own podcast. But we've been discussing a lot of stuff. As if you guys don't know what Martini Giant is, it is the second podcast that I run with my good friends Daniel Thron and Erick Schiele. And we love to talk about movies. And it used to be on this podcast, and then we spun it off and turned it into another podcast. But over the last several years, we've been talking about technology and how things are going to change for us. And so I decided we should do a podcast with them. And we're not going to talk about movies, but we're going to talk about how technology has affected all of us, and especially something very special that Erick has been making, which I'm very excited about. Kristen, what did you think of this one?
Well, this was a very good podcast. You guys are all I love all the different personalities in it. We first get kind of the life and job updates of Dan and Erick. And I forget who disliked sci-fi. That was pretty funny too. Was that Dan or Erick? I don't know.
Erick says he does not like sci-fi, which is total BS because we know he does love sci-fi. He just doesn't like Star Wars.
Which I love. And then you guys kind of just do a super deep dive on AI, their views on it. You kind of get into the nitty gritty of it, as I call, kind of what art is, what qualifies someone as an artist. And AI now is just a different model platform for people to use. Like it will be around. So what will it be in 5 to 7 years? Who knows? You guys discuss it could create a whole movie. It's a very interesting podcast. I love listening to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for a very, very long time. There's obviously a lot of mixed feelings and controversy about it. Dan is definitely someone who's very pro AI in terms of what it can do, and this is coming from an artist as well. So we've also observed a lot of what Erick Schiele has been doing. He's been creating these absolutely incredible images, and I'm going to go ahead and put a link to that, the stuff that he's been doing on this podcast page. So make sure and check that out. But he's been basically recreating memories of his past from the 1970s in Connecticut and creating photographs. They look like photographs of events that happened in the 70s, but they're completely made up in his mind, and they're based on reality. But it's very, very strange, this journey that he's been on, and I've been following it for a long time, and I just had to start sharing it. And it also talks about him, and he talks about him having Alice Cooper as his neighbor as well, which was kind of incredible. And that's a story he's been trying to tell for a very, very long time. So it was good catching up with those guys. I talk to them on a daily basis because we do a lot of stuff for Martini Giant. And if you guys, I'm going to start plugging, if you guys want to check out Martini Giant, go to martinigiant.com, check out our podcast there. And you can get it anywhere else you get your podcasts, including YouTube if you want to watch us on YouTube. And you should also go to our Twitch stream, which is twitch.tv/martini_giant. And that every Saturday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have a stream where we do the podcast recording live. Or if we don't do a podcast recording, we do a watch party, but it's a lot of fun. And so that's it. That's all I'm plugging for Martini Giant. But besides that, you should guess, hopefully you'll enjoy catching up with Daniel and Erick. Okay, we've got a product announcement coming up. Chaos.com is where you can get all of that. The big one here is V-Ray 6 for 3ds Max. Update 1 has come out. Lots of new updates there, including new masking tools that can be used in the VFB for the lens effects and the denoiser and things like that. V-Ray light materials, post-processing. There's a lot of USD work that's been done. A lot of speed ups have been done in the environment fog, as well as 50% less GPU usage on textures. So very smart stuff going on. Definitely check it out. Just go to chaos.com to check out what's new in V-Ray 6 for 3ds Max Update 1. Okay, we have one event still going on. Kristen, what's happening?
Yeah, so you can find this out at chaos.com/events. This is the one that's been ongoing since January, and it will actually only has a few more weeks run. It will end March 30th, and it is recording, so you can watch of tools and techniques to visualize an eco-friendly home, learn how to render an animated virtual tour with Chaos Vantage and V-Ray 6 for SketchUp. So go to chaos.com/events to sign up for this and watch the recording.
Perfect. Very exciting. And of course, if people want to know more about the podcast, where can they go, Kristen?
You can go to facebook.com/CG Garage Podcast or chaos.com/CG Garage. And if you'd like to watch us, go to youtube.com/Chaos Group TV.
Perfect. And if you guys have any other ideas or comments on the podcast, feel free to reach out to us. Our email is labs@chaos.com. Again, that is labs@chaos.com. Okay, we have one last announcement. Unfortunately, Kristen will be leaving us, not the company. She's going to work on a different part of Chaos, and she's very excited and very happy for her. It's a big step for her, big jump, and I'm very excited about all the cool things that she's going to be doing. She's going to be involved in events. Is that correct, Kristen?
Yes, I'm doing lots of the events, so... Come say hi.
Yeah, so when there's a big event happening for Chaos, whether it's SIGGRAPH or a party or anything like that, Kristen is probably going to be involved, so you can go say hi to her there, and you will recognize her voice, as I imagine. Yep. But unfortunately, it also means that she's no longer going to be able to help me with the podcast, which is very, very sad. It's going to make my life a living hell, but I will work with it because she is such an instrumental part to making sure this goes so smoothly. So she's going to be sorely missed there, but luckily she is not leaving Chaos. She's just moving to some new interesting adventures within the company. All right, so congratulations, Kristen, and thank you so much for all of their hard work on the podcast.
Thank you. It's been so fun. I really love this. Learned a lot too.
Okay, great. All right. Well, for now, please enjoy episode number 417 with Daniel Thron, Erick, Schiele, and myself as the Martini Giant.
Welcome to another CG Garage, where the Chaos Group talks. You'll know it's over when the last bucket drops. We're gonna fire off rays in high dynamic range. We know that ambient occlusion is passe. Global illumination won't lead you astray. And while image-based lighting is really swell, you need to make sure everything has Fresnel.
All right, guys, this is going to be an interesting one because it's a little crossover between our podcast and then the CG Garage and sort of catching up with people. Some people who haven't necessarily listened to Martini Giant or don't know it exists, they should probably go check it out. But I figured we'll check in, let people know what you guys are up to, because I know you guys are doing a lot that has changed a little bit, and we don't always... Maybe people want to know beyond us talking about movies what you guys are up to.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
You look so crisp, your image, and mine is blurry. I'm like in a 70s film, like the close up.
Yeah, you got sort of a Sigmund filter going on there. It's kind of nice.
Like
I'm using a real camera.
So am I.
The camera.
The camera.
Yeah.
What are you using as a camera, Erick?
I don't know, some little thing that says Logitech.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Mine says Sony, so there you go. Maybe that's a little different. Anyway,
really?
Erick, let's start with you since you started going. What have you been up to? I know you've sort of started doing a lot of interesting jobs here and there, including some personal projects, which I also want to get into. But how has things changed for you since the pandemic and sort of doing the things you're doing?
That's a very interesting question. What has happened? Well, when the pandemic happened, we sold our house, we moved. Our daughter wanted to go to school with her cousins, and so we moved to Orlando for her high school years. So that was huge, and but the pandemic, I was like, screw it, and my daughter is happy. She's totally happy, so it's great. But it's weird, like because I have a studio now, which is high ceilings. It's my own studio with like my computers, my work. It's strangely, because it's remote, I'm getting more work. I guess, it goes back to that theory my brother used to tell me when I was like 14. It's like, you're like aspirin, no more than 4 times a day. So I think the fact that remote is probably the best things for the aspirin type people like me. So, but it's great.
But you're also getting jobs from people from all over the world, right?
Yeah, I just did a job, an Unreal job. I designed and built this whole thing on Unreal for a company in Tokyo. And I did that for like 5-6 weeks. And that was great. I did the whole thing myself. I tracked in Blender, if you can believe that. And it was fun. And it was just me, and it was great. And now I'm working for Impossible Objects right now, doing Unreal work for them.
Right. That's also interesting.
Really nice guy.
Now you've sort of done the gamut of new and pushing technology stuff, and we're going to get to the AI stuff. Definitely going to do that. But you were doing stuff with NFTs for a while. You're doing a lot of stuff.
I worked at a company when I moved here. I was still writing, and then I got a job working with all these great guys at a place called Infinite. It was Dreamview, and it became Infinite World. So I was designing NFTs, doing look dev for NFTs. And I did that for a year and a half, a year and 3/4. And the company went out of business in November. So, But that was really great. And that was basically taking all my skills and just wrapping it up, learning. I do a lot of substance designer and substance work and Unreal, and just kind of porting my skill set over to that just to keep work going.
Yeah.
And I think with the pandemic, I think the remote is actually probably really good for certain artists who I can dive rabbit hole and be working 12 hours. So there's value there rather than having to drive to Venice and, hearing people talk about Star Wars all day. No offense.
No offense, Dan.
I'm not a sci-fi guy. So, that kind of stuff.
You always say you're not a sci-fi guy.
I'm not a sci-fi guy.
But let's be real. You love sci-fi because we've named numerous sci-fi films that you adore.
Because they're great. I don't consider them sci-fi. Okay. But yes.
2001 is not sci-fi.
Well, it's a masterpiece. So that's different. But I'm not a Star Trek kind of guy. I'm not
that's
a Trekkie.
The thing.
I don't
Star
get
Trek or Star
Trekkie
Wars.
Worlds.
All you're saying is that you have taste and discernment.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I mean,
even
this is
stuff like that Doctor Who. I was like, what in God's name is this?
Like,
crap?
There's a lot of stuff I like about that kind of material, like about corny. The thing is, like, the issue really is that when you talk to someone, say, like, I love sci-fi, and I say it proudly, I love sci-fi. What I'm really telling you is I have terrible taste. Don't trust me in sci-fi because I will like it anyway.
No, because you're responding to the stories. You're responding.
No, that's not true. Like, I'm agreeing with you 100%. Like, I will watch absolute trash sci-fi because the vibe of science fiction is entertaining to me regardless. Or I'll watch. My tolerance for Star Wars is way lower, but I'll watch stuff that I know it's like the acting is not good. This is really cornball. This is blah blah blah. But I like the vibe because I like starships and lasers and blah blah blah. So I'm easygoing on it, and it's fine. It makes it very difficult for me to be trustable in a situation when I've already told you I like green slime from 1960 so and so, and then I say also see Under the Skin. You're like, I don't know.
Under the Skin is a beautiful film.
Okay, all right. So just sorry. This is turning into a Martini Giant episode, which I knew it would. But here's it is. By that logic, Erick says he doesn't like sci-fi. He doesn't like Star Wars. And then you say you like good sci-fi and you don't like trash, which by logic means Star Wars is trash.
Largely Star Wars is trash. I think that sounds right.
It's true. Okay. Anyway, very interesting. But anyway, Erick, you've been doing some really cool work. I want to get into the other one, but let's touch base with Daniel real quick. So you are doing a lot of matte painting, which is something that you are well known for. But also you started to deviate from that more recently. What's going on?
I had, I mean, as like, I'm definitely on the aspirin route with Erick, like, working from home is 1,000% better for everybody involved because, like, I think primarily because like when Eric says like, like I don't have to listen to the guy that talks about Star Wars. I may not talk about I do talk about Star Wars all the time. I talk about how much I'm annoyed by Star Wars, and I'll do it for 8 hours straight at work, and it slows me down. Whereas like if I'm alone in my tiny closet and having to work, it turns out I get a whole bunch of stuff done. So the people I'm working for are happier, I'm happier, and I can just mumble to myself about George Lucas and nobody cares. And, like, I mean, I'll still email Eric about it constantly just to simulate it for him. No. But yeah, no, it was like, I think that, that I hit a point, artistically, that I felt like I really needed to change up how I was thinking about my life and what I was doing, and like how I was making money and what are the things I really want to accomplish. And so I've been trying to switch things around. And so I've gotten back into I've gotten sort of out of the VFX game for the time being. I'm more into the video game scene and writing for video games again, which I did a long time ago. And that's been very satisfying and sort of flexing those muscles. And it's allowed me to sort of fall back in love with the aspects of VFX that I do love, because I can apply them to the projects I'm working on, the films that I'm making that are mine, as opposed to, God bless Michael Bay, but like I'm not just painting rocks for Michael Bay, And
I've never heard God
that
bless
would be a
Michael
great
Bay before in
name.
my life, but that's okay.
That would be a great name for an indie band, painting rocks for Michael Bay.
Painting rocks for Michael Bay. Exactly. So yeah, it's been a philosophical shift for me, and a artistic shift, and I have to say my happiness universally has increased greatly, and my sort of stability emotionally has increased greatly since deciding to do that.
That's great.
That is great. I think it's also somewhat ironic, the fact that, Eric moved to Florida. You're all the way out in BFE. Mars, right? You're way out there on the outskirts of Los Angeles.
Right. I'm in Duarte. If anyone knows where that is.
So it's
way out there.
It's like a free mug. CG Garage.
I think,
and I'm obviously in the Burbank area, as you guys know, but the fact is that even though that has all happened, we talk to each other on a daily basis, almost all the time we're chatting. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that that we've been doing is we've been exploring as a group just some ideas, creative ideas, a lot. Just the three of us, because I think we're all very creative, and we're also sort of leveraging some of this changes in technology and how that's going to affect our creativity for the best, right? We're saying it's like, okay, how can we take advantage of this new technology, and what is it going to do to our creativity? Because I think Martini Giant in itself is starting to grow a little bit beyond the podcast in a lot of ways, and sort of looking at how we can do other interesting things as a group together and sort of leverage each other's strengths, which I think is kind of fun. So lots of things happening, which is exciting. And I'm excited to sort of talk about what those things are going to be. Some of them we'll talk about today, and some of them we'll talk about at some other point. But the other thing I want to ask you guys is, what is your thoughts about how things have changed? I mean, Eric, you've noticed a lot of changes. Let's go back to the quote unquote old days when you'd go to an office and you'd be working on shots, right? Those days are different now. How would you say the industry is changing, and what's the things that you're most looking forward to?
Well, that's a good question. I enjoyed some of the camaraderie. I did, and meaning, we gained friendships, all of us. But that model of just showing up at DD and doing your work, I didn't think it was going to last, because everything's just, the more things were shipped away, it just fragmented people. But I think the question you asked me was, how do I think it's changed, or am I
How do you think it, what's changed so far, and where do you think it's going, and what are the things you're looking forward to? Like, it's not just working from home, but it's also like technology in general.
I think visual effects started a lot of these really brilliant guys in rooms with computers. I think in 5 years, it's just going to be a fraction of the people today just doing the effects. It's just going right back into the elite group of AI or programmers and doing that work. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's just the way stuff has moved so fast, particularly in the past year. It just seems like to me that it's going to go that way. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of all the artists, but it's certainly going to whittle down to really elite teams and possibly elite teams just working remotely, which is going to affect a lot of people want to get into the business because they're going to say, well, I kind of want to work with the team. So they'll go work somewhere else. Not like when we did it. I mean, when we started, it was just a whole new world. It was exciting. And I still think this whole new world now is exciting.
But don't you also think, Eric, that it wasn't necessarily super efficient way back in the day? I mean, you and I were on Stealth together, and we'd have to go and stay at work for 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
And we weren't actually always working. We were sitting there waiting for things to happen so we could start working because the pipeline was always backed up.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of waste of time.
Yeah. Well, we don't have that now, but I don't think I could do that now. But I still think there's a shelf life on this at least for me, but I haven't decided. Well, I got to figure out, I could be working at Starbucks, but it's fine. I mean, I guess it's, I did leave it like a few years ago to write and develop something, and that didn't pan out. But then I just continued with, the graphic novel I'm working on. But it's definitely, you want to have new challenges. I definitely don't see a future. Like I said, I think it's going to be programmers, and I know that that's not going to be my world. But the AI stuff is so mind blowing right now that it's kind of refreshing to see. But it's definitely going to change a lot of people's minds. It's insane.
For sure. And I want to get into some of the AI stuff as well. And what are your thoughts, Daniel, about how things are changing and how they used to be and how they're different now and where they're going?
Yeah, like when I get into the VFX biz around 2006 or so, right? And that was the tail end of the glory days of like the digital domain experience. So I got like a little hint of that, but shortly there, it's like the model shop went away, and everything was just like it was slowly starting to evaporate. We didn't realize how fast it was evaporating, but it was within about 6 years it would have completely gone, right? And that like all this is sort of interrelated, right? It's like that all went away because the kinds of movies that were starting to be made demanded an enormous amount of shots, which means that costs had to be lower per shot, which meant they had to be farmed out to cheaper areas of the world to get shots made. And that sort of was the first destroys the VFX wave, right? And the industry got into making lots and lots of superhero films, et cetera, as everyone knows. And now we're at the tail end of that, right? And I feel like, because the enthusiasm for superhero films,
it doesn't stop with me. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it's flagging, right? Interest is flagging, and which means demand for other stuff is going to go up, right? And I've
heard it referred to on The Verge as Marvel fatigue.
Marvel fatigue, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's totally.
And there's plenty of reasons for that. I mean, like there's like on the podcast we've talked about like there's plenty of good Marvel films, but I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a good and bad one right now. I'm so burnt out on them, So they could release a great one, and I would still be like, I'm all set, thanks.
But
it's interesting that it happens to intersect with a moment where, like, as Eric brings up with AI and a lot of other things, like the industry of making movies, not just VFX, is about, I think, to change pretty radically.
Yeah.
And this goes for streaming as well as traditional Hollywood stuff, right? And I think that has to do with the collapse of because the system invested so thoroughly in giant, expensive, $300 million blockbusters that have to recoup their, et cetera. Then we get hit by COVID, and that doesn't work anymore. And the whole watching, how we watch things has changed. All these weird, perfect storm elements come in, and sort of force people into a corner of like, what is it that I really want to be seeing? And also, what is it that I really want to be making as an artist? If you're in VFX or if you're a filmmaker, how easy is that to do now? And then here comes AI going, it's so much easier than you thought it was, and so I can't imagine any of the stuff that we're used to, whether it's how VFX works or how the studio system works or how the streaming system works, being true in 5 years. I think it's all going to change radically. And it makes me think of like when Coppola said the thing about like, now the cameras are so small and portable and all this kind of stuff. Like, some little girl in Illinois will be able to
remember that
movie, right?
In his wife's film.
Yep. And like, I think there's two interesting things about it. One is that like he is right. Like now things are literally, you can make a full scale release movie with your phone, and before we even get into AI, right? And everything is available to you instantly. Like VFX can be done by small boutique groups that do an incredibly good job. Things are more deliverable to niche interest groups of people. So if you want to make your super weird indie sci-fi thing, there's an audience for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it still comes down to he was surprised, and I think later was surprised, like not too many little kids in Illinois, even though they had the tiny new camera, went out. It's not like you got flooded with a zillion new movies. Like you didn't. Like there's a limited number of driven artists in the world.
And also the medium changed, so everything's spread out.
Right. Exactly. And so like like you're going to, like, I think that like what Erick said is true. It's just sort of like it as a vast mechanism, a massive industry that employs tens of thousands of people. I don't think that's going to be true. Like in any step of it. No. I think that's all gone. I mean, in one way, it's sort of like saying, how many, it's sort of like everyone's worried about what, like, say if they came up with some amazing new car that could fuel itself and fix itself and blah, 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 blah. Like, how many drivers would there be left in the world? The people that really love to drive would keep on driving. And then Pep Boys people would be out of business. And so we're losing all the Pep Boys. Like all the middlemen of every level don't really have work anymore coming this way. And it's really just going to come down to people that want to make the art.
Yeah. Okay. But let's talk about this, because this has come up a lot, obviously, and we have had many discussion on this. So I don't want to start in the middle of the conversation that we've already had, because I want people to have some understanding of what we're doing. We have been discussing the issue of the backlash in AI quite a bit in terms of the reaction towards it. First of all, explain why you think that backlash is, either one of you, doesn't matter. Explain why you guys think that backlash is happening and how to deal with it.
Well, I'll take first whack at this, because I first of all want to point out that like one of the great artists with AI that I have yet seen is Erick. So like
he is.
This is it
is one of the best I've ever seen.
It's really your work is incredibly startling and consistently beautiful, and has a
I'm very touched by that.
To it. It's incredible.
Honestly, it's very kind of you.
It's beautiful work. It's incredible work. it's what proves my theory to me, which is like, I know everyone's super upset, and I totally respect that because, like I said, the cloud painters of the world, the rock painters of the world for Michael Bay, that's not a job anymore. Like that shit's gone. So all those kind of middleman positions that can be done by machines are going to be done by machines, and I have to find something else to do with my life.
Yeah.
So I
Same.
completely get that. And but in terms of reacting to this as an artist, right? I think it's a mistake to think that AI is an artist itself. And we tend to talk about it like that, like it's going to take our jobs as artists. Like, it can't. It literally cannot. And the reason why I think that is because, and I could use this example on Martini Giant a million times, it's like if you took random dude out of a line at Walmart and gave him AI tools, and you got Erick Schiele, and in the morning you say, use AI to give me one image, the most beautiful thing, the best thing that you can make. Right? At the end of the day, the dude from Walmart's going to give me, Kim Kardashian riding a dolphin with her hair made out of harmonicas, and Erick's going to give me something really beautiful and meaningful, and that's because you are the end user of that tool is the one who decides what is put out by it, and we're only going to have ever more. And Erick proves this because the work is so consistent, like it all looks at part of a piece. Like, it's only going to get more controllable. And so people will refine this into, like, I just want to correct that eyebrow, and they'll maybe type in text, or maybe select it and say, like, change that into like a little bit longer, and just move them apart, and you'll sculpt it by talking to the computer. You're the artist that's making it happen. And if you don't think that that's being an artist, then I would say you probably don't think that Stanley Kubrick's an artist, because Stanley Kubrick didn't act in The Shining. He didn't write the music for The Shining. He didn't
do the set dressing.
He didn't do the set dressing. Like, he didn't do anything for The Shining.
He wasn't a cinematographer.
Yeah, except he had a vision of what it was supposed to be, and he got people to execute it together with him. And that's, to me, being an artist with the tools you have available. And this fits neatly into that. Like, Erick's work is unlike anything I've ever seen, and that is a path to how this tool will be used by real, like, a new
I literally
generation
just
of artists.
posted the work or some of it today for the first time on LinkedIn, because I've been keeping it secret. But then
It's
I was
wonderful.
like, screw it, I'm just going to do it. And so I did it, and I'm starting to, like, again, I've never gotten a lot of LinkedIn hits. All of a sudden, I'm getting some LinkedIn hits, which is nice.
Right. So, and I'd like to use this podcast to get people more aware of it and see what you're doing. Well, let's just jump into it because you already opened the subject, but I do want to circle back about some more stuff about AI and as we go. But Erick, since we're on the subject, I know a lot, but tell me as much as you're comfortable as the audience knowing, since you've already started putting things up online. Tell us a little bit verbally what you're doing and how is it different than what other people are doing.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, both of you. Basically, the story is that, can I go back to a couple of years?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always was working for directors, and I probably wrote with old partners, I wrote over 11 scripts, but nothing went anywhere. And Hollywood just beat the shit out of me. Sorry, French. And I was to this one guy, this is my best idea. And he joined me on the journey to try to make it into a television show. But we got so beat up from 2018, 19, and through the pandemic that, I haven't talked to him in 8 months. God bless him. He's a great guy. Everyone just gets back into their world. But for me, knowing the tools that I do and sitting at, major studios like, Endeavor or CAA and trying to pitch this and no one getting it, I feel like, for a lot of artists, it's probably like, why are people controlling your future? So cooking, man, on basically a graphic novel. Because I did a pitch deck, which was very much, and this was a story that something happened to me as a child, and it's just always with me. And it just was incredible. And so I'm turning that kind of experience and my perception, basically what happened. And a lot of it is also, I think I've mentioned it before, but maybe not. But when I was a young child, we moved to Connecticut from New York. And when we moved in, it was in not upstate Connecticut, it's Fairfield County, Greenwich, Connecticut. And we had a housekeeper that worked for us. And next door was an old 100-year-old estate. And the Alice Cooper band lived there. And those guys lived there. They wrote like No More Mr. Nice Guy there, everything. And she would take me over there. And it was like 40,000 square feet. It was just magical. And it was literally our next door neighbor. And we could hear the music all day and night. And I would go over there and just watch them play and feed the snake. And so I turned that into a story. And then somebody I know knows Shep. And so then I ended up meeting Shep and having breakfast with him, and Alice came, and they loved it.
This was a few years ago.
It was like 3 years ago. And so we tried to get the thing going, but then COVID hit too. So I'm just making the book. And, but part of the journey for me was that I've always had this thing where you just always try to recreate things that you remember. And I'm finding that as I'm writing, I'll go to Midjourney and I'll start prompting and essentially kind of building out what I'm writing or seeing. And it's an incredible tool. And I wasn't doing it to be like copy an artist. The interesting thing is that I was talking about somebody with this. I don't reference artists, even though I, was a painter and art history undergrad and then for film design for graduate school. I know a lot of artists. I don't reference artists. I just reference time period and people and clothing and nuances from that time period from 1971. And it's just incredible stuff. Some looks like catalog, some doesn't, but it's an incredible tool set as an artist because it's just like you control it. And all of a sudden what you think and the taste you have can come through. It's not perfect, but it's been such a mind-blowing. You've seen a lot of my images. So today I posted it for the first time. I have like over 9,000 images, which is, yes, that's a rabbit hole.
9,000 images.
And
you've done that in like what?
Since December.
4 months?
Yeah. But for me, it's just, I'll take sections of the script, like the research I have at the band, and they were an extraordinary band. They lived there like 3.5, 4 years. They did Schools Out There. And they did $1 Billion Babies there. And it was just like, when you're 5.5, 6 years old and, feeding a mouse with Alice to a snake, it was like, it stuck with me and forever. I mean, in college, I'd wake up like with dreams from that. And for me, I haven't given up until, at least as I've told you guys, I just getting that book, even if nobody publishes it, just finishing it with all my personal artwork. And it's very much like Ralph Steadman, where he just has his own style and he's just creating a world. And I want to do it because it was just for it to stick in my head since 1971, 72, 73, 74. Like it was the most magical thing. And it's been never ending. Honestly, I don't know why. It sounds obsessive, but I just feel like if I do this, you get your voice out. And it's not a sentimental thing. I feel like, well, maybe it's nostalgia, but I feel like, as I say in the opening, you guys will get the script in 2 weeks, the new script. But it's like, when you see a fire as a child and like or a person, and you see the embers go and then just fade out. And I feel like I saw something and it faded out, but I want to record it before I fade out. And then with the tools that we know and with AI, for some reason, if you guys go to my website, this is not a promo. I'm not a big self-promo guy. Maybe that's my problem. But these characters that I'm creating are a mix of people my parents were friends with or we knew or experiences. And so I'm giving them names. it's so strange. Like, oh, that's Mrs. Cloughdale. Just made up names.
Characters,
so if you go to it, and some people are going to, I don't know if you saw it, Dan, but I did the fake camera in it.
Yeah,
I saw that.
So good.
I totally made it. I knew Chris was going to say, that's not a real camera. Yeah.
So good.
I didn't say that.
But I had this feeling when I was writing it, because I totally pulled it out of my behind. I was like, Chris is going to say, there's no such thing as a full, semi, half, medium. What was it? What did I say? A semi-full medium camera, format camera.
That's right.
Right? With a dual distant focus. It's like, that's not real, is it? But that's the kind of thing.
Quarter 30th.
So it's, in reality though, it does the imagery of, there's a surreal otherworldly to this, but it's also, that was kind of like Alice's thing. But, for these years, I haven't talked about it. I've just been doing it, but AI has opened up something. And I understand that there's so many artists out there saying, I learned this craft and now it's gone. And I get it. I was struggling with VFX and, that's going to be gone. I just have to keep moving forward. And
Before we get into that, because I do want to get back to that, but I want to hold on to what you've actually created, because the way that it's so fascinating to me is that you have psychologically you have something you need to get out, right? You have to tell the story, you have to do something, and you've lost part of it because you don't have pictures of everything. Part of it's all in memories, right?
And I recreated the house because it burned down. Right. I recreated the house in 3D, and I basically recreated everything according to the band's timeline and all the different people.
But you've been using the 3D of the house you've done to train the AI to recognize
I've been basically feeding in images of what I do too, is that because it's so long ago, I've done stuff where I found a book at the National in Washington, the U.S. Archives, because the house was built by Clyde Fitch, who was a famous playwright, one of the most famous of his time, in 1901. And that was the house next door. And so the original blueprints are in the National Archives. So I, went there, but then I found old photos of it, but they were angled. And I found an old book called My Life with Clyde Fitch. And it was basically, I would have to take that, straighten it, colorize it through AI, and then through the colorization, blow it up through AI, and then take that and bring it into F-Spy, and then figure out the camera, and then rebuild from there. It's crazy if you think about it, how much I've done. But I've done that to photos, just colorizing, up-resing, even photos of people who were roadies for the band, done that, or parties from the 20s. I found in old magazines. It's a total, because I was trained as a production designer, I guess the historical aspect and it's easy for me to go rabbit holes, and just, I have about 2 terabytes of data of just pure research, everything from tickets that the band, because I'll go online and I'll rip it and enlarge it, scale it through AI, like all the different types of tickets from the shows, everything. It's crazy, but you're using AI to recreate memories. That I'm doing, yeah. And it's not totally there, but it's pretty wild, because I'll take pictures I have of the street and then the house that, it burned down, and but I'll do that and then bring it in and try to merge a lot. It was really crap in the beginning, but all of a sudden, I think by end of January, February, I started really getting the swing of prompts. And my prompts, though, were different, because sometimes I'll put in, let's run away and fall in love. It's like, what? And then somehow I just get these strange things. But I think I kind of look at myself, an artist that I idolized as a kid, besides Erick Fischl, painter, was Robert Rauschenberg. And he just kind of took images and had them all around and then merged them and created and twisted and threw them away and spray painted. And somehow out of all of that, there was a memory and there was magic, and you got a sense and a tragedy and everything. And that's kind of the way I look at AI, not to rip off somebody's style, just to kind of clean the pipes in a way. I don't know. It's a weird, strange thing. And the fact that these pictures are starting to resemble more and more. It's a new thing, but I find it really beautiful. And I don't know if I can't say it's the death of art, but it's definitely the next phase. There's something about it that's quite magical, and it's made me think, well, it's not going to, visual effects is going to be something like that. And now that with Google, with the video, it's crazy.
Well, the other thing I think that Daniel and I will note is that you are one of the most prolific people we know. This is before
I was going to
AI.
say that it may be a shock to people that Erick's produced 9,000 things with this, but like before AI, he still would have produced 9,000 things.
Well, not exactly. He would have produced
I'm
1,000.
exaggerating.
He would have produced 1,000 things, but he would have been frustrated that he didn't have enough time to make 9,000 things.
Yes.
And now he can.
Yes, it's very true. He is an extremely committed talent.
I was not like that, though.
Yeah.
I was not like that as a young man. I wasn't. And I was, I had wonderful experiences in my life, but I wasn't like that. But I ran into people that really made an impression on me and about their commitment to art. And one of them was a guy, I have one of his paintings, a guy named Vincent Desiderio, who's a very famous painter today. I think Kanye stole his painting for one of his videos, but that's how everybody but I worked in a gallery in Soho in the late 80s and early 90s. And he would come in with his sketchbook, and just hearing him talk about his commitment to his craft was like, it felt like a million miles from me. And I guess it took me getting older. And I actually feel like working in visual effects gave me a lot of that commitment too, because you just have to focus and move. And that's why it meant so much to me getting into DD, thanks to you, Chris. And, but I wasn't like that. So now it's not catch up. I just feel like, you have, this is your lane and this is what you do. And you just have to commit, like every day you have to commit to it. And it hasn't been easy, guys. It has not been easy.
No, I because we've done Martini Giant together for so long, and we're very familiar with the struggles and how hard it's been for you to be able to get through what you're doing. But I do find it wonderful that you found a way to start to exercise this and to get it out there. And obviously, Daniel and I are also committed to helping you in that process. That's part
I know,
of one of the
and
things we
I
do.
just one thing. I think the thing, and it's very thank you for having me and talking. I totally forgot we had this tonight. And you said Riverside. I was like, what's Riverside? I was like, oh, we have a podcast. But the one thing that for me with the project when I did, because it was like, you know what, I just want to get this off my chest, and it still has legs in my mind, is that you do it because it's like really the first thing I did because I wanted to do it. And because I moved and my daughter's at school and I work down here, I'm not thinking now of, how will it sell? I just think I need to just say this. Right. And that has been the big shift since, even meeting with Shep and Alice, they're amazing guys. And they actually Shep got it. He was like, oh my God, this is so odd, but it's very much like him. He's like, really bizarre. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's a very strange thing, but it's Alice. It's great. And we talked about the old house and stuff, but I definitely, if you don't want to sell something, don't try to make it to sell. And I did so much of that to try to fit in a mold. You don't fit in a mold. You just do what you think you should do. And that's one of the big things I would tell anybody, because I made so many mistakes that way. And we can't take back time. Cher can turn back time, but not me. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say, is that it definitely.
I think Cher has stopped time.
She has stopped time, and she is wonderful. But the thing is, just what I'm saying is not a lecture, is that you want to just build for yourself. And this project was pretty much the first time. I was just doing things, what would sell, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I did a surfing movie for kids. It's like, first of all, I don't surf because I don't like going in the ocean, and yet somehow I did it. And just do what you feel you should do, and not what, I think the pandemic helped that way. If I stop talking, it just put people alone to reflect and to feel like what they should be doing in life. And life is very finite.
Dan, what are your thoughts, generally speaking, about some of the, obviously there's some people who are very much against the use of AI. We're looking at Erick as this beautiful example of incredible things that are coming, that are helping him and doing a bunch of things, and they're using the very tools that people are so angry about. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, not just, obviously they're worried about their jobs, et cetera, but also they think that there's something unethical about AI.
Right.
What are your thoughts about the ethics of it?
I have a very close friend who's very, their world was very upset by this. We both know someone who's very, very, very mad about this thing. I have to take what they're saying about how they're feeling at face value. It's legitimate to feel this way, in that, they're scared and they're angry and they want to have a voice for this somehow, and you stop being afraid, however, by stopping whatever this thing is, and so the ethical debate comes up, and I think that part of this comes up because of the way, and I think that I think there's some merit to this in terms of, I think that the people that made these initial AI weren't thinking about how people, especially artists, would receive the, finding out that their work and just stuff at large, whatever, was being put into a data set without their being asked or anything like this. I think that that's totally legitimate to be mad about. I think that they should have. I think if they would have asked anybody, any artist at all, they would have realized they were going to run up against some real issues with this. The reason why I think they, to give them all the credit in the world, the programmers, I think the reason why they didn't feel, like this was an issue is because they're looking at it from a totally technological angle. And when you, I can't say I know the tech super well, but I think I understand it better than most of the people that are mad about it. And that it's a pretty hard argument to make, to me, that this is ripping people off in the way that we mean ripping people off. Because it's training on imagery for sure, and it's using what it learns about what, say, a glass looks like, or what people think the sky is, and stuff like this, so it can refine its sort of denoising algorithm to present you with an image. But I think a lot of people think of it as like a cut and paste affair. It's just taking somebody else's painting and then repurposing it slightly and then spitting it out. And that's not what's happening at all. That what you can do with it is you can tell it to make art that looks like somebody else's art, and it can replicate it almost exactly. Now, that, and so that's closer to actually ripping someone off, right? And I hate to tell everybody, you can do that anyway without AI. That's something that people have done for the entire history of art. And it is the responsibility of the artist to not do that, and to even try to recognize when you are unconsciously doing this, because you're influenced constantly as an artist. I'm influenced constantly. I'm always looking at
the only way to be an artist.
This is how I learned to be an artist, was exposing myself to and as much art of all kinds as I possibly could. And when I was training to be an illustrator, it was just copying artists I liked until I burnt the technique into my hand, into my physical nerve pathways knew how to do that stuff now. you look at any of my early stuff, it's just like I'm ripping off comic artists I love, painters I love. I'm stone cold ripping them off. I just couldn't even break out of it, right? But later on, I developed into my own style because that's what you're going to do anyway. Your voice is going to come out because you're not going to just be satisfied in replicating someone else's work. You're going to synthesize everything around you into your voice, right? And so when you have a machine that can produce an artwork instantly, right? And it looks like something, like if that looks like a Rauschenberg, exactly like one, right? My reaction as an artist would be like, well, that's really impressive, but that looks like a Rauschenberg as opposed to a Thron. You know, like I don't want to make a Rauschenberg, like I want to make mine. And it is my responsibility to change it into a vision that I have through iteration and change, right? And this software, because it's referencing zillions and zillions of things, should, and this is another thing that, like, I don't see why they didn't do this. Like, it should be able to internally understand what it's referencing and tell you, this looks a lot like a so-and-so, a Keith Haring. You know, are you sure you want to proceed with this? Like, I can recognize
that's interesting.
this,
yeah.
right. And it could give you a prompt saying, this is an almost exact duplicate of this painting right here. So I don't know if you want to do this. Right. And the thing is, like, the reason why I know that they could probably do that with these AI is because this is what I do with my work using Google reverse image search. Like, the way that I find out that I am not inadvertently or unconsciously ripping off something that I reacted well to is I do take something I'm working on, put it in Google image search, reverse it, and look. Because I try to be responsible about the art that I make because it's mine. You know, I don't want to rip people off. And I think that most real artists are uninterested in ripping people off. And so, yes, this tool, intentionally, sure. And like, of course, like it's a pretty vague area between, like, are you referencing, or is it an homage, or is this outright stealing? But like, the intention, I would imagine, for any artist who considers themselves an artist is to make the work your own, not to coast by on somebody else's look, right? And so if you treat this machine as a tool, then you'll do that. If you think of it as a Xerox machine, then you won't produce art with it. You'll produce copies.
Well, hold on a second. I actually took. I was an art major in grad school as well, or not in grad school, in undergraduate, and I took a printmaking class. And one of the tools that we could do in printmaking was a Xerox machine. We actually used Xerox machines to make art, and they were pretty interesting things that were coming out of a Xerox machine. But
I mean, as we talked about with Andy Warhol. I mean, Andy Warhol's replication of other people's work, and his arrangement of that other people's work is new art.
Sure.
Like, and we all agree, and largely we all agree that that's true.
Well, let's talk a little bit about two things I want to touch on that I think are very important to deal with. One is, let's start with the idea of education. Right now, there's a lot of people who are coming out of schools where they're learning skill sets that suddenly they've spent a lot of time learning, and those skill sets suddenly seem obsolete.
Yeah, well, talk to any English major and you'll get the same thing. Like, right. That's how it goes, man. Like, the skill set is not the art. That's just stuff you learn to do.
I know, but I think people tend to confuse art and craft.
Yes, I agree.
Did we lose? We lost Dan for a second.
I know.
Eric, we'll continue with you for a second. What are your thoughts about education and how it's going to change people?
I think a lot of people are just going to, I think the whole art school thing is going to dwindle too. I do. I don't think people are going to, if they're going to be an artist, they're going to work a day job and then be an artist at night, you know, Joseph Cornell or whatever. But I think it's, I don't know if it's too many. It's just, people think there's a guarantee, and it sucks. There isn't, you know, there isn't. And working in visual effects as long as we have, we know that, or I know that. And you just have to constantly be moving ahead. And that's what I try to do. But I do think that people who go to school just expect, but that there's a job for them. But I don't know. There isn't. It's changing. Everything is changing so fast.
Yeah.
I've never seen tech change as dramatically as in the past year. I mean, it's just crazy, So I think the world will shift, and people still have to work and want families and still produce art. I often felt like in the past year or two, like I wonder if art's going to go back to like the way the Medicis were, where they would sponsor artists and they make art for just their sponsors.
Right.
What
are your thoughts on stock photos and how that's going to be completely disrupted through AI?
Yeah. Stock photos? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think when you reference somebody's style, that's their style. It's stealing in a way. That's why I literally posted my first time last night. It's been months because I was like, But for me, I just use AI, like this job I did for the Japanese client. I did all this AI stuff just to get a sense of like mood and ideas for color and texture. And it worked. It was great. I didn't say, hey, here's my painting. It was just, this is a reference, some ideas, right. Just like the stuff I'm doing now. And, I don't want to just put something out that looks like another artist's work, because I don't know, I'm just not comfortable doing that. And plus I want to just do my own thing, and you can see traces of Rauschenberg or whatever else in my work, but I'm not, copying it. So I think people look at it as just stealing. They got to step back and say, can you use it as a tool for inspiration and get your ideas out? My stuff is all private, so I can just get my ideas and think, and it's great. And 90% of the time I don't use it, but there's some gems, and it's kind of strange. It's just like opens up this whole floodgate of.
Yeah, it's interesting because you do share stuff with me often, yes. And I keep them on my phone. I don't share them necessarily with people. Although now that you're making things more public, I'm going to share things more publicly about it. I help promote it. But what is interesting to me is that every time I show it to people, they are so used to seeing AI art that's weird but different or whatever, and it all kind of looks the same. As like, I've never seen anything like what you've created. Like, to them, it's like a lot of people thought that I'm just showing them old photographs.
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, this is wait a minute, what? And it's like, no, these are all. And because you make them, and I think you hinted as like, I tell them there's like, no, I want this like it was shot in an instamatic camera.
My character,
right?
For the graphic novel, even for the television show I was pitching, was he was gifted a camera, and right. So everything is through that type of camera. And for the website, I just made it up, some stupid thing, but I like to give names and whole histories to each photograph, and it's just it's interesting because they're not real, but I made them real by just, if you go to my website, we'll put a link, you can see, and I'm just going to start adding it with all the names and the people and the history, and it's all fake. Not that, it's just kind of interesting how.
Well, it's not fake. It's made up. It's in your mind.
But here's the beautiful thing. It's like, I like to create every day, and okay, I'm just building this for my graphic novel, but I like to be able to do it myself. And I think that's the painter in me. And, I think not like trying to sell the show, which didn't work out, but it's fun. as long as you get your ideas out and you keep going, I think you're good. And I think even if you use AI just for ideas, you might be surprised at how it steers you and just towards new directions and ways of looking at things and composition and happy mistakes and things about yourself. So I think it's great. And I'm not scared of it because it's inevitable. The floodgates open too. So it's not like, say, put it back in the bottle. It's open.
Right.
But a lot of it, like I said before on our podcast, that a lot of it is stuff that you'd put in, a dental or podiatrist's office, like the artwork. It's horrible. But, it's their work. But it is repetitious and it's, based on other kind of things that you can see in styles. But it's amazing and keeps the wheels going. But I think...
do you remember back in the day, Eric, when they would have those ads of the hotel motel art sales?
That
Remember
was
those?
Saturday Night Live. Hotel motel art. Yeah. It's great. It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that was Dan Aykroyd doing that. And look at this. Gideon. But it was, there was a lot of that. There's a lot of that, but it doesn't mean everyone's contributing to something. But I do think what Dan touched on, or you touched on like 10 minutes ago, I think where they're going to say, this looks like a Warhol. Are you sure you want to do it? That's going to come. Where you're going to get prompts, little things pop up and say, your image is too close to this.
Right.
And then
well, that's true. And that absolutely could come up. And I think it would be interesting if and when it does. But the other thing is that a lot of these systems are trained, or the systems themselves. Hey, Dan,
sorry about that.
Is back.
That's the most crashed my computer has ever been.
Nice. BSD'd.
Yeah. Yep. Stone cold.
All right. Well, hopefully this will all work out. But anyway, I was talking about he was talking about how, what if the systems could recognize what you were mentioning, recognize that your image is starting to look a lot like this, and maybe you should consider that. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very interesting idea. But there are a lot of the other systems, like Stable Diffusion, for example, that is an open source project. And you can continue to train Stable Diffusion with whatever you want and do whatever you. So the openness to that is also, available to people to do.
Not to mention that I feel like we talked before, like I think there's actually a path here for artists who don't make a lot of money normally on their work to get compensated by having their work be part of licensable image sets via like Getty.
Well, I've been watching.
We were just talking about the Getty images. Their business model is completely disrupted now.
They have to change literally everything.
Yeah.
I've been watching.
Go ahead, Eric.
There's guys that are now just selling their own sets of models and prompts.
Yeah, right. Like, look at that's my big advice. Is like, I understand that it's super super scary, but like, look for the ways that you can both practice art anyway as much as you can, and look at how you can make money with it, and take advantage of these changes as opposed to resisting them. Because if you resist them, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
What if you basically in 10 years you can make text to video, somebody writes a prompt, which is their whole movie, and just sells the prompt.
Sure.
You own the prompt. And then you can
as an NFT.
You can render the movie or not render the movie.
Well, this is the thing. It's like like I said, this is a perfect storm of a lot of elements, right? When we first began the conversation, it's I think that the initial reaction that people have, people that are professional artists, illustrators, concept artists, that are matte painters, like this is their bread and butter, and suddenly they see this thing coming in and wiping out how they survive and feed their family. Like, so that's where the initial fear comes from, right? But you have to think of it in these terms, right? It's like, like for the longest time, for 15 plus years, I was making money painting clouds and rocks and whatever it is. Now I'm one of the Pep Boys I was talking about. Like, Pep Boys has gone out of business, guys. That's what's happening, right? And that's it. You know, am I an artist? Well, yes. However, what I have done for 15 years is spend most of my time, quote, as an artist, doing work I would not have chosen to do for people, for other people's work, for other people's projects. You know, like if I was really, you know, if it was really special to me to be a painter, I have actually been wasting my time, because like what I've been doing is just turning tricks with my technique, you know, and I'm not unhappy about that. It's not like I'm not proud of the work that I've done, but like I can't pretend like that my profound artistic satisfaction in life came from painting rocks for car commercials. Like, that's just an execution of my technique, right? If I love doing that, if I love the technique and I just love practicing it and all the time I've spent learning it and all that kind of stuff, nothing is stopping me from continuing to do that as art itself. You know, it's just like CG did not kill the careers of people who want to be stop motion animators. Like, that is its own field, and it will remain that way even when AI can make stop motion looking movies, because people still want to get in there and do the damn thing themselves. And there are people that want to pay to know that that's true. So there's still a model that you can build for yourself. It's just a different model than where you were at before. But once you start saying this isn't art, then you're just reacting out of fear and wanting to say anyone who uses this is an enemy.
Oh, no. He crashed again. No, you're back.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Anyone who used it? What?
If you're saying anyone who uses this is an enemy, right? That's from a place of fear within you, because you're worried that your love for what you do can be defeated somehow. And I promise you, if you love it, it can't. How you interact with it, how you make money with it may change. Like, that's the truth. But if you love it, do it. Like, that's it. Like, if you actually love it, if this is your art, do that thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you make any money on it at all. You know? And that's the, like, so I like, if you want to get around this thing, think like an artist about it. You know,
you
right now we're thinking like Pep Boys guys. Like Pep Boys is going to unionize, so people bring us their cars anyway. Like, guys,
what?
It's not needed. So that's how it is.
Yep. Yeah.
And so to connect to what you just said, Eric, like, yes, I believe it's actually faster. Like in probably 5 to 7 years, you're going to be able to generate through iterations a terrific screenplay.
Yeah.
And it will automatically ask you if you want to render the film as the next step. And then you will direct the movie to the computer, shot by shot, and it will render it and do all the voices.
There was actually someone.
Dazzler's
it was
Revenge.
James Blevins was mentioning that there's a system that, and it might be Adobe who's making it, where you just dump all your documentary footage into the system, and you ask it the story you want to tell from the documentary, and it'll edit it for you. Yeah. At least give you the first rough draft.
Oh my God. That'd be so wonderful.
Crazy.
Yeah.
My God.
Because then you don't have to, that's a lot of tedious work to go through all that footage and just.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Think about what you want. What's the art that you want out of it? If you're making the film,
right? Like,
is it the fact that you want to go shoot it with a lens and actors? No one's going to stop you from doing that. You can still do that. That's not, nothing's in the way. If it's having a finished work of art that moves people, then there's a lot of different paths to get there, including AI.
Yeah.
Like, think about what you're trying to do. Like, how is it you want to practice your art? Your art's in here. It's not in the nerve endings that did all the practice at college.
The nerve endings that did all the practice in college. True.
Technique is not art. Art is in your heart. Sorry to be corny. That's the truth.
Yep. Well, I think it's very interesting, and I want to give. What's also been interesting to me is that I have been trying so hard to get people to come on this podcast specifically to give an opinion about what is upsetting them about AI, right? And what's interesting is that I've gotten two reactions. One, people have literally ghosted me.
Really?
Or two,
Why?
because I just want to have a discussion, and they only want they don't want to have a discussion about it. I think
They want to say a thing about it.
they want to say a thing, but they don't want to have a
Exactly.
discussion.
Right.
And then the other one is people who are reacting towards it, saying specifically, I don't want to
That's
be
really
public
bad.
about this, because if I'm being public, then other artists who are against AI may actually be against me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wow.
No, in fact, like I
Really?
said, I had a close friend who
That's
is-
nuts, Chris.
like this close friend of mine and I, like, we really had a long and heartfelt dialogue about this.
Right.
And she's is a very important person in my life, and I care about her very much.
Sure.
And she was, like I said, rightly very mad. I totally understand where she's coming
Yeah.
from. and all
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
kind
And
of
I want those opinions. I want people to have
Right.
those discussions with me.
Right.
I'm actually really trying to get everyone to discuss this. And it's like the discussion is not what they want.
It is extremely. I feel blessed that she was able to overcome her anger to talk with me openly about this when she knew that I was pro AI, and I think that, like, trying to, like, having that kind of, like, because we were able to have a discussion about it, I think I was able to at least allay some of her fears, and she was able to clarify the things that she was truly worried about to me. Like, and so it didn't, like, we weren't taking extreme positions.
Sure.
And once you do that, then there's a way through, like, then we can continue to say, like, there's a way through for both of us in this. And we love and we trust each other. We can do this, and it's going to be fine. But it's when people refuse to talk, or let their anger get the better of them, that there's, it makes things worse for everyone.
Sure.
They're scared though, and I understand. I
I get it.
understand that. I do. It's. But at the same time, it's like, look. Remember, whenever we used to have roto departments,
Mhm.
and then they started just shipping it out to somewhere else.
Sure.
And
Well,
people
the
just
thing that I
accepted
would
that.
think was hard for people in the roto departments is that was the entry job,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
Oh, I know.
If you want to be a compositor
That was where you
and
started.
eventually if you want to you start with roto, then you go to being a compositor, then you become a lead compositor, then you become a compositing supervisor, then you become a digital effects supervisor, then you become a visual effects supervisor, and then you win an Oscar. That's the
Yes.
road, right?
Yeah, it's like Roto is like when it's like when Uma Thurman's in the box in Kill Bill and she has to learn to punch through the wood with her hand. That's doing Roto. That's doing Roto.
But now that's good. That job is gone, like you said, right? And it's not just gone because it went to cheaper places. It's gone because it went out, But the thing is, roto really almost got replaced, like, through education, because if you went, there's now schools where you learn how to composite, and you can go right from school to being a compositor.
Mm-hmm.
There was no school to be a compositor back then. So you started with roto and you learned as you go.
That's right.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's like I feel like what we should imagine is all of our jobs are going to be taken by AI. Let's imagine that. Okay.
Sure.
No matter what you love to do, the AI is going to be able to make it faster, and
They'll make
money.
way more
Like
interesting podcasts than this one too.
This is true, right? And so that's how it works. So, the economy then has to shift to, like, paying everyone in America a dividend from American AI, and that's how we have money to buy stuff. So our lives are paid for. Wonderful. Just so we can have some sort of thing to tell, like, AI totally takes over. You don't have a job, but don't worry, you still can eat and your kids are fine and all this stuff. Like imagine that everything is taken care of for you, and you can do anything with your day that you want.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you still do roto?
No.
Okay, then don't be a roto artist. Do you still paint, even though it takes forever? Then paint.
I mean, I would be turning out what I can to clean the pipes every day. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
if you love that practice of that, if that's the way you want to practice it, nothing's stopping you from doing that. But do it because you love it. And that's what AI is giving us, is the room to practice what we love and to get to the things that we love faster if the technique isn't the thing that turns us on.
I think what's interesting is the interest in art has gone up exponentially. And I'm seeing way more things like, yes, like you said, Kim Kardashian riding a dolphin with, staplers for her hair.
Yeah.
The what's interesting to me is that someone has that idea in their head.
Absolutely.
It may not necessarily be the best thing, but I love the fact that someone has that idea.
So someone who never who would have no skill at drawing, who has crazy ideas and can't stop thinking about them, and just thinks like, I can't draw, I'll never be able to get these ideas out, now has a way to do that.
Right.
And that's great. And if they have great ideas, they will be seen.
Yep.
Like, these are great things. And I think it's also made people think very hard about what art is, which I think is a healthy thing to do.
Right.
yeah.
Yes. It's interesting. I heard someone told me the other day, who happens to work in a company that makes hardware that facilitates a lot of this AI stuff. But anyway, he mentions like there's these moments in technology where you're like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. Like, the iPhone came along or whatever that was, right? So smartphones, to me, I actually saw it before the iPhone, believe it or not. There was a phone called, or not a phone. There was a Palm Pilot, and then there was something called Handspring. Do you remember Handspring, Eric?
Yeah.
No.
There was a
Handspring.
spin-off of Palm Pilot, and they had a thing. And it's like, oh, it's like a little portable computer, and I can, it's a Palm Pilot, right? And it had this calendar and everything else, but they had a plug-in where like you can plug in a cellular thing into it, and you can do computer things connected to the internet with this thing. And I was like, uh-oh, this is going to change everything. You're going to have a computer in your pocket. And I was just shocked. And then obviously the iPhone came along and just said, we're going to do that thing, like the Palm Trio, but we're going to do it the Apple way. And it blew up. Right. And I think now this is what is happening. Like this is going to change everything that we do. Right. Search is going to change everything.
Yeah. Like, I think what's really funny is that like this, like, if you know anything about how Stable Diffusion works, like it's a parlor trick. It's not like it's not like Skynet.
That's what it is.
It's just a fucking denoising program. Like, that's what
it is true. But the way that works can affect a whole lot of things. Like, for example, as another thing, like search is going to change. The way you search things is going to change. Obviously, Bing is already changing, and we already know that there's misinformation problems and all this. There's a lot of things that are going to be very, very disrupted. But when you start messing with search, you're going to mess with the entire internet.
Yeah.
Because search engine optimization, which is what everyone has been using
SEO.
to gain the system to profit off of the internet, is going to be completely turned on its head, and the entire internet and the entire existence of how we get information and what that information is going to be completely disrupted. Which I think is probably about time, honestly.
I think so. I mean, like, I see, like, I think what's really interesting is like all these things that are happening. I mean, I just, while I was waiting for my computer to reboot, like, I saw that let's see if I even have the article here. It is they're using Stable Diffusion to take the data of brain scans and reconstruct imagery. And I was like,
Did you see that? Did you see that, Eric?
Yeah. I was just like, whoa, I just watched Until the End of the World.
Right.
Like, that's really wild.
Yeah.
Really wild.
I kind of look at AI, or at least diffusion, Midjourney is like it's like spoken word. You just put these words together, and all of a sudden you have something else, and there's something beautiful about it. It really is
something very artful about it. Yeah, I agree.
I do want to because first of all, people who've never heard of Martini Giant should realize that our podcasts go 3 hours, and we're not going to do that, subject people to a 3-hour podcast here, because I don't want to go into that. But I would like you guys, or one of you guys, we'll go with you, Daniel. If you were to describe people, okay, what is Martini Giant? Tell people what it is. People have an idea.
Okay, the quick sum up is that we all love movies deeply, and we love talking about them. We're all in the movie business to one degree or another, or have been, and so we have this sort of slightly inside baseball look at how movies are made, and we treat it like it's like we started because we were sitting down at the Firehouse Bar and Grill in Venice, just talking about movies left and right, and it just made sense to start doing it in front of a microphone. So it's very much like a casual hangout, deep dive into literally anything that pops into our heads. Erick has tremendous history in actually physically making films in New York City with some pretty big art directors. And Chris has obviously worked in some of the biggest VFX films of all time. And I am one of the biggest movie nerds you've ever heard talk. So that's what it comes down to.
Daniel is pretty close to being a walking IMDb.
Yes.
And Erick is very, very closely, very similar in a lot of ways, but they have very different perspectives. And I try to facilitate the conversation.
I like good films, and Dan likes. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, no, you are completely right. We have to. You're completely right. Like, the best thing you can say about me is I like movies so much. I don't care if they're bad.
And most of the movies, so usually what we do is they come out every 2 weeks. Because they're a 3-hour podcast, we don't subject people to have to listen to a 3-hour podcast every week. So we do them every 2 weeks to spread them out a little bit. But they are, we can talk about movies that are popular or well known, but rarely do we. We actually tend to talk about movies that you may not have gotten a chance to see, or you maybe never heard, but you should have.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we do is we say, it's like movies you never got around to seeing, and now you don't have to, because we basically spoil the whole film for you, and you guys get to talk, see it that way. But we're very interested in your, if you guys want to know more about Martini Giant, just go to martinigiant.com and check it out, because I'd love to have you.
And we'll put the link to my Midjourney blog.
And it's different than obviously CG Garage, where I do lots of different interviews, but also should note that Martini Giant came from CG Garage. It started off when I was like running low on material, and I would say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to have Dan on, and we're going to talk about Star Wars. That's what we did. And then Erick started joining us, and we started talking about Alien, stuff like that. And we started just getting into it. And I said, hey, we're doing enough of this stuff that we can just do a spin-off, kind of like, All in the Family and the Jeffersons, right? So
that's right. It's the Norman Lear of Star Wars.
We are the Jeffersons came out of All in the Family, right? That's how it went,
yes,
right?
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah. So Martini Giant is the Jeffersons, and All in the Family is CG Garage.
And it all comes down to the kid in the hospital in St. Elsewhere, and we're all part of that world,
right?
In the end,
right. I'm sure people are going to say like a Marvel reference instead of that, but that's our generation. We're all Gen Xers. So. Right. All right. Well, thanks to you guys so much for being part of this. Hopefully,
Thank you for having us. Big surprise.
We'll have a discussion. If you guys want to hear, more from us, you can always go to Martini Giant, but also, continue to obviously to listen to CG Garage, because there's a lot of discussions there, but also, as I think I've tried to make it clear, if you have a point of view about AI that you would like to share with us, specifically if you have a point of view that's saying, hey, I think there's something wrong with this and I'd like to share that opinion, I would love to have you on. I am not going to be very defensive about AI.
I still can't believe people didn't want to come on because of that. That's really strange.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's just odd.
I've been really trying to have this conversation, and
because that's how mad they are, and they know, like, getting that mad on air is not going to be fun for anybody, including them.
Right.
You know?
Right. But I'm sure someone has a constructive argument that they can give me.
It's
so.
out there. People have very reasonable points of view on this. So
Yeah, that's.
Right.
I'm sorry. People
That's
think
okay.
like that,
It's
you know?
okay. It's all right. All right. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Thank
that
you.
was great. Thanks.
That was great. Thanks for having us.